And we'll let you say you'll get better.
All right. Oh, I always get into that theme music. Start jamming out. Oh, Dave's in the spirit tonight. Damn, look at him. He's even got the hat on.
Not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens.
But it's aliens.
All right.
The shirt wins it, man. I mean, you.
My brother got this for me as a gift a while ago, and I save it for special occasions such as this.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. All right. Tonight we are talking about UFO sightings. Recent, semi-recent. I don't think we're going to touch on the uber popular government leaked ones that have been like rolled and viewed ad nauseum for the last like 2 years. You know, and you know what? I'm glad too, because those were like right before the whole 6-page documentation thing that was released, and it was like, look, we're finally going to have the reveal. And, crash.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was, oh my God, that was such a disappointment. Such a disappointment. I want to say hi to John. Tim Vickers is also in the chat room. Nice.
Oh man, my doppelganger.
Sweet. There's a few other people watching. I haven't seen anyone else comment yet. They better comment soon. Looking at you.
John and Bob.
Anyway, Bob and John.
Sounds like another radio show.
There are Wonder Twins.
Form of water.
Oh, my goodness.
A bucket of water every time you could turn into whatever the hell you wanted.
Yeah. Why would a bucket of water? Like, why?
Why?
What?
Maybe it was easy to draw and just reuse the animation.
Maybe. Yeah. All right. So let's get into our opening statements. I'll shoot it to Dave.
All right. Well, UFOs. Yeah, obviously hot topic these days. You see a lot of the news stories coming through with the military and the reports and the government setting up their UFO group to investigate sightings. But tonight I picked a couple ones that you may not have heard of. You actually would have to get in and dig and do a Google search a little bit, look at some YouTube videos. So we'll look at one that's not too far from here, just in the state north of me in Wisconsin. I got another one from Naples, Florida. And then if we have enough time, I got something that no pictures or video on this one, just the report out of Canada, sighting by a dual sighting at the same time by a military aircraft and a commercial jet. Saw the same thing. So that one's kind of interesting. But yeah, I as a kid, always loved reading books about UFOs, watching Project Blue Book, watching Unsolved Mysteries. So it's an interest of mine. I don't really get that much into UFOs, but I do enjoy reading the stories and picking up tidbits here and there. So we'll see where this takes us tonight. So I think this should be fun.
Yeah.
Sweet. Tim.
I started out looking for UFO videos and new comments. I kind of weaned off of it, and just my whole interest is when it comes to UFOs, I just I go straight for what the hell are we going to do if something actually shows up? Like, that is just so fascinating to me. So I officially really didn't find anything that looked like it was a lot of fun that was recent, at least for me. So I ended up just kind of going down that rabbit hole of, what the fuck are we? Sorry, what are we going to do? I'm not even drunk enough yet.
Of the night. Tim drops it.
What are we going to do? Like the idea of the reveal that we will not be alone, regardless. And I understand probably we'll get into like what exactly, the alien life form, or at least a life form, can come anything from probably like a virus or a microbe, anything to something that's going to be far more advanced than we are.
Right.
So, even a life form that's not from here that shows up, that's very small, just very small, is still going to be pretty groundbreaking, I think. But I just, I don't know. Like I've always, when it comes to UFO sightings and aliens, like my first thought is, what are we going to do? How are we going to handle it? That's just fascinating to me.
Right.
Always has been. Even early on in the ghost hunting career, as it were, my hobby, I always, the F-bomb word. I did it. Yep, that was me. Wait till I get drunk. I mean, this is going to be pretty bad already. I've always thought of all the things that are out there on the list, like demons, ghosts, whatever, Bigfoot, cryptoids. Like, probably the only thing that seems like it's more realistic, or probably for me has a greater probability of something being out there, is something that's a life form that's not of this earth. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll probably just talk about stuff. I got some good notes over here, so
Cool.
I'll hit it up when it comes around.
Looks like we're going to go into like different pathways with this show. We're going to talk about some sightings and then talk about possibility of life and what that might do to our society here. That would be interesting. That's a good topic. I like that. So for me, I like this kind of thing. I'm kind of with you guys. I'm not really into the UFO thing, the community, because there's just a lot of bullshit. And I mean, I've always said it, and I say this with love, but UFO people are probably the weirdest of the big three. It's just, I've been to their conventions, I've hung out with them, and the conspiracies are just rampant, and they're just out there, and sometimes I just have no idea how to respond. It just dumbfounds me. I get like that Haas effect. Just totally screws me up. But I like shows like this because it's a teaching moment. I think these can reveal good lessons on how to look at photos, how to look at videos, what to look for. At least that's what at least one of mine, or both of mine, will be more teaching moments. So with that, what else is there? I did have notes. Oh, well, I think UFO sightings today, I think there's an increase in recent years, and I think there's three things that go with this, that have caused this. So number one is most people have a phone in their pocket now, at least in the modern world. More people have phones, so more people have cameras than ever before. And with that, number two, there's a lot more things in the sky. It's not just birds, it's airplanes, helicopters, drones. You have LED kites, which is something that I've looked into before. You have balloons, mylar balloons, not just regular balloons, but the mylar ones that reflect light like crazy. I mean, they can look like stars sometimes. You have satellites, more satellites in space than ever before going by, which are still visible just by looking up in the night sky sometimes. And then, of course, you have Chinese lanterns that are, it's become a tradition that you see it. So there's so much in the sky. Everyone has phones. And then the third one is basically ignorance. Ignorance and the media. It comes together because you have the media doing these stories and they put it out on the national news or world news. Oh, this new sighting in Hawaii, or this new sighting in Nebraska, or this new sighting in California, or whatever. And people just look up in the sky and they see these lights. They don't know what it is. And they're like, oh, it's a UFO. And that's it. It becomes alien. How many people had that report that we reviewed, the 6-page report, thinking that was an admission of the government that aliens were real, and it had nothing to do. It really had nothing to do with that. So, all right.
I always like the the statement of, remember what the U stands for in UFO, and
Right.
that kind of keeps you humble. But I think that's funny.
And I like, even with the new term UAPs, they still kept unidentified in it.
As it should
because
be.
That's exactly what it is. All right. So you want to keep going? We'll keep going on our rotation. So I'll
Sure.
throw it down to Dave for his first up.
All right, let me share my screen here so we can take a look at some screenshots I took. That
Ooh.
hopefully this will come through. All right,
And yep, let's see. It's coming. Maybe
maybe
not.
should be. There it is.
Maybe.
Huh.
I don't see it.
The government found out you're trying to
Damn it.
show the video.
Damn,
We're screwed now.
government.
Now we're all going to get knocks on the door.
Damn
and
it.
The little flash.
Okay, hold on a second. Let's see. You added it to the feed, but it's
I
not
did.
showing up. That's not good.
And it's blank on the
Well,
bottom bar.
shit. Let's try that again, shall we?
Let's try this again.
What the hell? Never had a problem before.
I shouldn't have advertised so soon.
Yeah, it's
my
even
fault.
coming up. That's interesting. It's even coming up blank when I. Huh.
Dave is possessed.
That's
It's
weird.
government, man. Come on, man. Game over.
You should
Just
check
Come on,
outside.
man.
See if there's any men in black.
Yeah, it says it's sharing, but I don't know what it's doing. So,
You'll get a flashy thing. We'll see a bright flash.
all right. Well, why don't we move on to somebody else and I'm trying to figure out what the fuck is wrong with the computer
All right,
tonight.
Tim. Why don't you you said you didn't have any examples, right? You want
No,
to-
but I can
Okay.
open up anything for discussion. It's just I like going in that direction for me. So
okay.
the probability. I just went ahead and started looking at there. So in our observable universe, which is very specific and very different. So in our observable universe, we have 100 billion galaxies and 500 billion planets in the Milky Way alone, that's in the Milky Way, which is like our neighborhood.
Right.
I love the idea. There's several quotes I enjoy. If there's no other life out there in that many places, it seems like an awful waste of space. And another one that I like is the two greatest fears that we have is that we're not alone in the universe and that we are alone in the universe. Both of them are good. So our Milky Way, if you kind of think about just, again, thinking like 500 billion planets in ours, our Milky Way is about 100,000 light years across. 100,000 light years. That is amazing. And it's considered an average size galaxy. It's not big. It's not very small. It's just an average size galaxy. Our observable universe, what we can see, and that is relative to the Earth's position, is I'm going to get the word wrong, but it's a cool word. And I left it in here just because it's 46.26 gigaparsecs.
Ooh.
Which sounds
parsecs.
Like yes,
we know parsecs.
Yeah, it's 46.26 gigaparsecs or 46.5 billion light years. So that's the only part that we can see, and that includes any satellites that we have sent out to observe out. And that's just the observable universe. And then it expands even more. So some of the problems with like someone coming and visiting us, obviously, is how the hell do you get across that fast distance to visit someone?
Right.
And if they do make it, then they're probably really advanced. So they've got some really good shit going on with the technology.
Yeah.
So I just kind of think with that much space, with that many other planets, for me, like I don't think that we're alone. I can't prove it, obviously, but if I had to like flip a coin or, if someone said make a shot, I would say probably there's something else out there. I don't know, but it is. So with that in mind, I guess and going with an alien, like what you think about with like television, books, novels, fiction writing, the aliens that come are far more advanced typically. So I'm kind of just thinking about that in general, if a spaceship shows up and it's hovering over Earth, and so what would we do? So what I looked up is
Independence Day, bitches.
yeah, as far as known publicly, there are no protocols, agreements, or treaties among countries of what to do if we were visited by aliens. So there are protocols and agreements what to do within countries, and they do have some of those posted. I don't imagine that there are other ones that are not posted, but there's nothing like, what are you going to do? Like, what are you like? How are you going to communicate? So I just found it interesting, like that there's nothing like we have ties with any other country. Like, what if a spaceship shows up, especially if it's an ally, at least. My first question was, I would imagine a lot of people would want to know why. So I'll just throw that out there for general discussion. That was kind of like a little bit of my opening, but like why, like our first intention would be like, why would they visit us? Like, why would they come? What at this point would they come for? And it's really just a great, almost open-ended question. I don't think anybody really can be wrong, I guess, unless it's just so far out, so far-fetched. But some of the things that I read were actually food,
Yeah.
which is a little scary, but just not necessarily, not that they're running out of food wherever it would be, but it would just be a variety of food, a lot like oh, sorry,
Dead
lot
air.
like
Dead air.
well, it's a lot like, I think a lot of the people that look at it kind of go from a perspective of how we traveled across oceans before what we knew were on the other side. So
Right.
one of the great things to find on other sides of the world were spices, different foods, different things that are enjoyable that they didn't have before. And that might just be a reason for someone to come here. So I just kind of toss that out there for anybody listening, or you guys, like, what do you think like aliens would come here for?
I think it's interesting. I mean, when we go back in history, the reason that I remember, that I recall of us going out, like sailing across the sea, was because they thought it was a lot smaller than it really is, and that they would get to the other side of their continent, and that was just a different way, a straightaway, instead of going all the way around. Whereas this, going out into space, it's like you're in for the long haul, and we know now our current technology. It's, and I think somebody popped it in there. It's like something like 37,000 years to go 1 light year, the comparable distance, which we're not getting anywhere right now.
No.
But to
We're
come
still
here,
gas powered.
I mean, that's an interesting question. Why would an alien race come here? And I mean, the first thing that popped into my head was a lifeboat. Like if their planet was doomed,
That's
if
pretty
they
cool.
were if they were going the way of Krypton and it was just going to explode, or it was dying and they needed to go and just set out. Maybe they had some advance notice. I mean, we have an idea of some Goldilocks planets in the Goldilocks zone. And I think the closest one is like, I forget. I forget off the top of my head, but that's probably what we would shoot for. All the rich people and politicians, they would be in the lifeboats, not us. We would be here doing our podcast to the end. But they just shoving off and saying, all right, this is our Hail Mary pass, we're going out there. Other things I can think of would be resources, to mine resources that might not be available anywhere else, or maybe we're the closest one. We could go the way of V and say, we're food. Or even there was that Twilight episode about how to serve man.
Right.
And that was a big thing where they thought they were, meeting a new race and getting along and building a friendship where the aliens were actually cooking us and having us for dinner. So there's a lot. I mean, that's just off the top of my head. What do you
Well,
think?
you know, in some of the reading that I did, that their environmental destruction was a reason, including destruction of their planet. So, in other words, you know, at some point, our sun, our star, is going to kill us. It will expand, kill us, then crunch us when it destroys. Like it's going to happen. So,
There you go.
you know, who knows what we'll have in the, I don't know how long it takes. I forgot the number, how long it's going to take, but our sun will kill us. It's going to, it will expand, eat us, take what's left, and then constrict or contract and fall in on itself and then blow up. And then we start all over again. But you're right. That was very high on some of the writings that I saw, was like a lifeboat somewhere else to go.
Yeah. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, there's you talked about habitable zone planets. There's obviously the ones they've discovered, but there's got to be a ton more. There's 100 billion galaxies, I think they estimate. And that's just talking number of galaxies. Then you start talking the number of stars, star systems, solar systems, planets that could be close to a habitable zone. Yeah, I got to imagine there's another habitable planet out there. But as we're talking about, how do you get there? How would you sustain if we can't break the speed of light? How would you get there? But if you think about that argument and everything you're talking about, that could go the opposite direction. If you're thinking about, you're wondering, why hasn't anybody come and visited us yet? Is it because they haven't detected us? Is it because they also don't have the technology to travel those distances at a reasonable amount of time? And that could be one of the reasons. I remember reading, I can't remember how far away they said this. Let's say there was an alien civilization and they were looking back at Earth right now. Like, let's say for example, they had the most powerful telescope in the universe. They can look back and look at the Earth. And actually, just based on the amount of time it would take the light to get there, the only thing they'd be seeing right now is dinosaurs. So they'd be like, well, why the hell would we want to go there anyway? That's just a bunch of things roaming the planet. So yeah, I mean, I certainly think there's habitable zone planets out there. They keep talking about it. They're popping up in the science reports and the news feeds, and the matter of getting there is going to be the problem. And how long that would take, or if you're going to actually have to develop a ship that's not only a ship, but a space colony that allows you to survive and produce food and renew oxygen and basically live. You almost have to design an ecosystem like the Earth to sustain you long enough to get to any of these places. So yeah, I definitely think it's out there, but getting there, that's going to be the problem unless they figure out how to zip through wormholes or go into hyperspace. It's going to be a long time before we can travel to some of these places. So
I like that concept. I mean, I get it. The looking back in time, because that's what we're doing. Like all the stars that we see when we do the deep space probe, these deep space gazing, I guess you would say it, with our telescopes, and we're looking at this tiny dot, like a grain of sand wide in the sky, and we train it like the Hubble on there for days at a time.
Yeah,
and then
10 days or something. It was all galaxies.
And then,
it was
holy
crazy.
shit, there's tons of galaxies out there, and you're thinking like there's an unimaginable time frame there, because like you said, like we're seeing dinosaurs. Anybody looking at us right now, they're seeing dinosaurs if they can see the surface of the planet. And it would be a gamble, because any society that's advanced enough to be able to see what's on our planet from wherever they are will be advanced enough to know, okay, so this is so many millions of years ago. Should we take a gamble? Is it still there? I mean, because that's one thing. Like a lot of the stars that we do see probably aren't there anymore, long gone, but we still see the light. And then thinking, all right, maybe the dinosaurs, because we're going to call them dinosaurs because that's what they are, if they're not there anymore, or how have they evolved? Because that would be my next question. Have they evolved into humanoid or Have they been wiped out and then a new species and all this stuff? Oh my God, there's so much to talk about. Holy shit. This could be a show on itself.
Well, I mean, honestly,
Forget the UFOs.
if they had the ability, I mean, it just might be, maybe they'll come just out of curiosity. Maybe they'll just say, let's go see how that evolved and we can learn more about ourselves. Again, that's kind of anthropomorphizing. Woo-hoo. I'm not going to say that again this show. That's kind of doing that to the aliens or the beings that we're thinking about, but that's kind of what we do. We look at new stuff that we don't understand, and we try to understand it so that hopefully we can learn about ourselves. Maybe they'll see it and just go, holy shit, look at these things over there. I wonder how they ended up. If they can make it over here that fast, if they can do something to
But on the other hand, we need to realize that they could be way less advanced or way more advanced than we are at this stage too. And look at the leaps and bounds in technology that's been made over the past 30, 40 years just here. Imagine if there's a civilization that's a couple million years ahead of us. So who knows? Maybe they have found a way to do it and we just can't comprehend, or we're not there yet.
Stargate.
Yeah.
That was good.
So wish, dude. I'd walk right through.
You jump through it. I'm like,
open that bitch up and let's go.
Let's go.
I did load some slides, so hopefully they'll come up. You see in the feed there should be slides that'll pop up when it's time.
John, I don't think we're going to get into this tonight because it wasn't really part of our original topic discussion. So maybe we can. That might be a future show. We get into that, the Drake equation and Dyson spheres, especially Dyson spheres, because it's a cool concept.
Yeah.
It's a real cool concept. I'd love to get into that.
Yep.
All right, let's see if this works.
Oh, there it is.
Yay!
All right. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Montello, Wisconsin. This was on June 13th, 2021. Supposedly happened at 9:22 p.m. And this guy was outside with his cameras set up, and he's trying to take pictures of the Milky Way, pretty much. And, started to capture or saw this light and heard a noise. And he took more pictures. And I got to admit, if this isn't a hoax, or he hasn't edited this stuff, it's pretty, at least somebody has a good picture, finally, potentially. And I found this on the Homestead How YouTube channel. Guy's pretty entertaining. The only problem with the video is he's got his kids running around and they're all commenting, and it's really hard to follow, but I just took a couple screenshots so we can take a look at what he saw. So this is the first one. You see his little Homestead How YouTube page there, and this is into the video where he was just sharing his screen with the photos he took. So he said he saw this thing and he heard what sounded like engines, which is really different because a lot of the UFO reports, people say they don't hear anything. There's no noise at all. But this guy he said what sounded like almost like an aircraft engine. So he looked up and then he saw this, and then he starts zooming in a little bit because he had I think it was a 10, he said it was he made a comment, a 10 to 20 megapixel camera. So it's a fairly decent quality camera. So this is zoomed in on one of the pictures. Then he just gave another one, and then he really zoomed in on it. And of course, there was a lot of time spent talking about the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lights on the top, the illuminated bottom. Is that it? Yeah, that's it for this one. So, I mean, they went through everything. He's talking about, is it a drone? Could it have been a drone? Could it have been a helicopter? He thought he would be able to identify that. And if it's a helicopter, then he's arguing, why am I not seeing the rotors? Because I can see the stars perfectly fine. The light that's up above doesn't seem to be reflecting off of anything on the top. So I don't know. I thought it was interesting. It's close by. I could drive up there and talk to him if I wanted to. So this one just kind of grabbed my interest. And I got to say, as far as pictures, this is probably one of the better ones. Obviously at night, regardless, and Kenny can comment on this, I'm sure, regardless of how high quality your camera is, if you get a bright light source against a black background, it's going to probably flood out or bleed out, and it's going to be a little hard to see some of the details. But I don't know. I thought this one was pretty interesting. It's a good picture. If again, if he didn't fake it or Photoshop it, or if who knows, maybe it's somebody in the neighborhood that was screwing around with a drone that they lit up in a certain way. But yeah, that there isn't a whole lot more details there besides the day, the time, the city, the state, this guy talking about it, the pictures he had, and he spends a lot of time supposedly trying to capture astronomical things with his camera. So again, you can see the stars in the background here, which, you know, as you zoom out, and he did a whole bunch of different zooming, but yeah, you can definitely still see the stars around it. So I don't know. What do you think, Kenny? Any thoughts?
Yo, yeah. Well, this one, I don't like this picture at all. I would never use this picture because this is a picture of a screen.
Well, yeah, I
Of
was
the
taking
picture,
shots
yeah.
off the.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, because you can see.
Yeah,
the
so the
person.
ones that he shared would be, this was a screen, a picture share,
And this is a.
and
Oh,
this is
so
another one.
so the first one.
Go back.
This one. So
Okay.
is this just a still shot that's in a video?
Yeah, he shared the pictures that he took on his video podcast. So he just he would talk about it, kind of click through them, and then he would share his screen to the video feed so you could see the actual picture better.
Okay. My problem with this one is that first, it looks like more of a Pepper's Ghost effect here, where this might. He doesn't have to be inside the house, but
He was outside, supposedly. He
yeah.
was outside. Yep.
But I can take a piece of a glass and go outside and take this shot with a light behind me. I'm not saying that's what it is, but it really reminds me of like a street light. And it's so bright. There should be some illumination on the ground. I would expect some illumination down
He
where
did
that
talk.
chimney is.
He did talk about, if you look to the left, there's almost, you see almost a beam. I don't know if he was saying it could have been like a floodlight type thing, but it could have been just the illumination.
So the house pieces that we see on those on either side, the right and left, that light is coming from below. That's not coming from this thing.
Correct.
I would expect the way this, because you can almost see like a beam coming down at like an angle.
Yep.
Pointing towards that chimney. But I see like that is the darkest part of the entire film or photo, and it shouldn't be.
But if it was so far, if it was pretty high up, you wouldn't expect that light to hit anything on the ground.
I don't think. See, there's a lot more problems too because of the stars too. The stars are pretty bright for taking it. If there's a bright light like that, the camera would probably see that. See, I don't know. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't know exactly what I'd have to spend some time on this, but I think I'm not trusting it. This looks more like light painting. Because you can almost see where he went back and forth.
It's probably just the fact he couldn't hold the camera steady.
If that was true, we would see it on other parts of the photo too.
Oh, that's true. The stars, you don't see that on.
The stars would be back and forth. The first picture with the parts of the house, you would see ghosting back and forth. You would see motion blur, but you don't see it because this is not just. Sometimes you can get away with it if you rotate and like the bottom part doesn't move as much and the top would. But this is actually side to side. So we should see all that. Like we should see more of the chimney. We should see more of everything. The top lights, man, I don't know. I mean, this could be a drone.
That was kind of my thought, especially since he heard something.
Yeah. I mean, it could be a drone with a light on the bottom.
This gives me ideas of going to buy a drone and lighting it up with all kinds of LEDs and flying it around at night. That
definitely
would just
could
be fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a question.
Sure.
I pulled it up as well while you guys were talking about it. So this video is a video videoing another video, correct? Like it doesn't look like the original videos posted.
He doesn't have a video. It's the pictures he took, and he's talking about it, and then he puts he eventually just shares his screen with the pictures on it from his camera.
Okay, I thought it was a video.
It's a video. It's a YouTube video, and
I kept looking for it.
His kids are in there, and somebody's got a video camera. They're kind of like doing a podcast type thing, YouTube channel video, and he talks about this, and they kind of, as he's going through it, clicking through it, then all of a sudden he's like, okay, I'm just going to share my screen so you can see the actual photo. So these are photos. It's not a video.
Yeah.
It came from his YouTube video that he did.
I honestly don't think this is far away. Because if you're dealing with perspective for this, because this light is actually larger than the top of the chimney. So if that was a good distance away, this thing would be huge.
Huge.
Yeah. This would be huge, like bigger than anything we have in the sky. If it was a good distance. Because I mean, think about when you look up in the sky and look at planes. You know, they're tiny and they would barely show up in this photograph. But this thing is huge. So I really think it's close by. And this just looks fake. This looks fake as shit.
Well, that's why I preface the whole thing. Like, if this isn't a hoax or he didn't Photoshop this, it's an interesting photo. I really don't know what to make of it. But yeah, because it was close by and it was somewhat recent, I'm like, ooh, this will be a good one. And I figured Kenny would have fun picking apart the pictures.
I always get it. I forget what we're doing. And I forget we're doing a show because I'm like, oh, let's get into this shit.
So anyway, that's my first one. So if you want to remove that from the stream for now, and then when we come circle back around, I got some more for the next one.
Okay. All right. Let me hit up one. Let's see.
Santa's sleigh.
Santa's sleigh. Okay, that's probably just as good as a UFO idea.
There you go.
It's Rudolph. His nose was blinking as he was moving a little bit. That's where you get those window-looking things.
All right, so I'm going to show this. This is a video. I'm going to play this for you guys, so we can get in trouble by the History Channel. Here we go.
Antarctica is the coldest place on Earth, containing 90% of the planet's ice. It looks almost like an alien planet, and there are some who think it's hiding proof of aliens themselves. In October of 2020, a sharp-eyed investigator scans satellite images of Antarctica and comes across a site that stops author Brad Olson in his digital treks. It's a metallic-looking object half covered in ice, and Olson's sure he knows what it is.
There's a perfectly round saucer on Antarctica.
Look closer. It sure seems to be a raised disc casting a shadow onto the ice. Olson thinks that as the ice melts, an alien spacecraft has emerged from where it was left thousands of years ago. But what?
So this is interesting. This is what I mean by one of these teaching moments. So he thinks this right here is a ancient spacecraft, an alien's flying saucer that was covered in the snow and has finally become visible now that with global warming and all this stuff. I must say the witness, I started looking him up, and he's big into UFO kind of conspiracy theories. Huge. So there is a point. Mick West actually guest stars on this episode, and he's a little bit later. He actually reveals what he thinks it is, and I'm going to play that clip and then tell you why I agree with him. So there's a little bit more of him. Let's see here.
Could it be that this is a shuttle to go back and forth to Mars? With some of
they had talked about Mars.
bases that
I mean, let's just get into crazy speculation right away.
Antarctica was once on the equator, and plants and dinosaurs thrived there. It seems fantastical, but the fossil record proves it's true. And now some believe we're on the verge of a similar revelation about the continent's connection to Mars. The only way to separate fact from theory is to turn to our experts. Science writer and forensic video analyst Mick West takes a 3D look at Olson's downed UFO.
I tried orbiting around the image to see what it looks like from different angles. The perception of it kind of changes. And now instead of it looking like a disc, it kind of looks like a little lake of water. And I think what we're seeing here is an example of what's called the crater illusion. The human brain has evolved over millions of years into expecting that light comes from above. So our brains automatically interpret this image as being a raised up disk, and they interpret the other image from 180 degrees as being a depression.
West is certain about the crater illusion, but NASA's Bob Anderson is more open-minded about the strange formations on Mars.
All right, I'm gonna stop there. I watched it today, and I got pissed off when they said that. Like, oh, this guy's more open-minded. It's you could be open-minded and still figure out what the fuck it is. It doesn't mean you're closed-minded if you have a good idea of what's going on. And I want to show. All right, so with this picture. So again, this is supposed to be this downed alien spacecraft, which would be really cool. It would be really cool, if it was, because I would totally go inside of it and see what was going on. Even though, there's that fear of the face hugger getting me. I would still do it. But he's right about the shadow. And you have to look at the shadow here. And I'm sorry, it's not as big as I would like it to be. That's what she said. But
oh, sound effects. Right on.
Oh, damn. That was good.
Tim is not drunk enough yet. He's still able to hit the sound effects.
That was good.
Just a lucky guess on the button, really.
Woo. Oh, I lost my train of thought.
Look at the shadow.
All right. So looking at the shadow, yeah, this alien conspiracy guy, the UFO guy, claims that this is a craft and the shadow is underneath of it. But if we look at the rest of the photo, especially like up here at the ridge, this is water up here. And if we look here, here's water here. But we look at the edge here, we can see the shadow is on this side because the light's coming from over here. If we look at all these rocks and ridges, the shadows, even right here, they're coming, they're going to the upper right. So this is telling me that if we look close at it, let's see. If we look close, this is a depression. It's something that's down there. This is an edge, and this is most likely water. It's most likely water.
It even looks like it's and if you look going from the very upper left of it, where you see what we're talking about, water, shadow, it looks like it continues on to the landmass on the other side.
Right. It just looks like, it's a continuation. And this is probably a small, maybe lake that is forming because, I mean, you have all this snow still there and it's slowly melting, and it's making its own little pond or lake. So, but yeah, I mean, a simple look at just the ridges here and seeing where the shadows go, this is a key element. It tells you exactly what's going on. You know where the sun is. We know where the light source is. So that tells us where all the shadows are. So this is a depression. It's not a massive ship that's causing a shadow because it's going in the wrong direction. If it was, and there's a photo out there that I've seen where it was like an alien spacecraft that looks almost like our stealth bomber, and it's at an airport, and there's personnel working on it or bringing it in. And I've seen UFO believers / investigators, whatever, presenting that as authentic at conferences that I've been to, until I point out that the shadows of the ship are going the wrong way. Everyone else's shadows are going like one direction, and the ship shadow is going the opposite direction. No, it doesn't work like that. So, but that's, like I said, this is a good teaching lesson, just to look at simple things like the shadows. Look at how everything else in the photo is going, the details. So there you go. That's my first there.
Cool.
Even that overshot, the way it's presented reminds me a little bit of how ghost hunting TV shows present a EVP. They kind of throw out like what it is. Honestly, that would have been good if it's possible to have a topography like a map to see where it's going, but that's kind of just a flat picture thrown. Honestly, before the person started, the other one doing an analysis of it, like it was kind of a little bit difficult for me to figure out what was going on, like what was high and what was low.
Right.
And so when you throw that out there and then someone just says, look at this space, that could be a spacecraft. I think your mind kind of goes away from, trying to orient yourself as to what you're looking at and where you are in space and time, to just focusing on, oh, that is kind of a strange looking thing out in the middle of nowhere. And it just seems like that was presented loaded. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. It was presented loaded because it was giving you that idea, like, oh, look, this is a spaceship. It's metallic. And that was the first description.
Yeah.
He says, oh, a circular metallic object. So that's already, you're primed. You're primed to see that. And yeah, it's going to have slightly reflective properties or look metallic because the ice, the water, that's going to reflect sunlight. Right. So you're going to have those properties, especially when it's a small area. And I don't know exactly how big. I don't know the scale here.
Yeah, that's where I was saying before. Like, I'm not sure what I'm looking at. That's
right.
Yeah. And there was what was the image from Google Maps, or?
I think it was from Google Maps.
Because you should be able to. They'll have a scale on there. You can figure out how big it is based on how far you're zoomed in. So you just look in whatever lower right or left corner, and it'll have a little scale there, so you'll be able to tell how big it is.
Right. I'm going to have to go in a little later and see if I can find the actual. I didn't have time today to see if I could locate the actual thing and take another look. Right. But I mean, it's interesting. I love this kind of stuff because I see people. They do the same when they do the sea floor, the ocean floor. When they map out the ocean floor and they're constantly looking. I mean, there's the Millennium Falcon shape.
Oh yeah.
Someone found a Millennium Falcon shaped object on the ocean floor, and they were like, "Look, it's a Millennium Falcon." I'm like, "No, jackass, no, that's Star Wars. It's not reality." I'm pretty sure they didn't have Star Wars back then, whenever this crashed. But yeah, I mean, it's cool, but it's quirky. Okay. All right, Dave, what do you got?
All right, share that feed again.
Sure.
Next one came out of Naples, Florida, happened around January 5th, 2022 on a Wednesday evening. It was featured in a WBBH and NBC2 news story. And the guy's name is Matt Kraus. Kind of standing around with his wife, saw a bright light, then 4 more lights appeared. No sound, which is a little more typical of some UFO sightings. It was one of the lights was stationary for 15 minutes. They go on in the news story. They followed up with the Southwest Florida International Airport. Of course, they referred them to the FAA, and the FAA appropriately passed the buck to the military, saying, well, you'll have to call them to see if there was anything going on in that area. They later talk about getting a hold of the Naples Airport Authority, and they went back and checked, and there was no hits on the radar at that time. The one thing that's interesting is this guy reports that it was stationary for 15 minutes, but then he makes one of the common statements that I've seen in some of these reports. He says the random movement, it couldn't be Chinese lanterns because of the random movement. I'm like, wait, so is it stationary or is it random movement? And the Chinese lanterns, I'm like, well, yeah, if the wind's blowing a certain way, it might not look like random movement. It would, so it seemed like it was all over the place. Now, Jen and I have seen Chinese lanterns, and I got to tell you, it was late one night, kind of looked out the kitchen window, and somebody's like, whoa, what is that? And you see these red lights, and they were pretty high up, and I think somebody must have tied them together. And this is when we lived in Janesville, Wisconsin, and they're floating across the sky, and all you see are these little red lights with no sound. And when it's late at night and you're looking up, and your first initial thought is, what the hell is that? It's pretty cool looking, but they were all drifting with the wind. So, instead of taking a shit quality picture, I went and got binoculars. looked up and I'm like, oh, they're Chinese lanterns. But you can see how that can be mistaken. And if you're a believer right away, you're going to say, oh, that's a UFO. No sound, couple lights in formation. But yeah, this guy says, no movement. It was stationary for 15 minutes, but then he says it was random movement. And that's how he explains it could not have been Chinese lanterns. So let's take a look at what these look like. Again, these are just screen captures off of the news story. And this is the picture the news station shared of his picture. So you can see the 1, 2, 3, 4 lights. You can see the reflection in the water, and then where the water is kind of come up and is pulling away from probably the beach standing there. So they look like they're white there. You get a little variation in the color on the bottom. They do seem fairly bright. There's just one more shot of that little. You only got 3 of them there. Oop, and then that goes into the next one. So yeah, to me, who knows what he's seeing there? It could be Chinese lanterns. They could just be floating above. Nobody really had any other ideas besides the potential for the Chinese lanterns, which they did point out are illegal to launch in the city of Naples. Great, thanks.
Right.
That was helpful. So yeah, it's a typical formation of lights in the sky that people say they don't hear any noise, and then you get the conflicting report in the eyewitness. It was stationary, but then the movement is random, which to him it explained away the fact that it could be Chinese lanterns, is because there was random movement after he said it was stationary. So this one I thought was another kind of like Kenny was saying, it's kind of a good learning situation to take a look at something like this. And the assumption is because there was no sound and then it was stationary and then random movement, that to this person explained away any normal, or did away with any normal explanation, which is obviously jumping to some major conclusions. Nothing showed up on radar, so probably some sort of Chinese lantern or something, even though they do look fairly bright. But again, we'll turn it over to the photographic expert here.
They are bright, and that concerns me. When it comes to Chinese lanterns, I've seen them. Donna and I have seen them outside, and I've seen other videos of them, and they're not as bright. They're usually like dots of light that you see in the sky, and you follow them, and you're like, oh, what are they? They're weird kind of lights. These are really bright, and they do appear to be far off. Not something that's close up, unless there is a possibility. I mean, because Chinese lanterns can vary. So you have different sizes. You have small ones that are like a lunch bag size, like your kid's lunch kind of thing. And then you have these huge ones that are probably like 2, maybe 3 feet in diameter that go up. And it could be that that's what we're seeing, but these look more like, they almost look like flares. And I would have to see where military bases are in relation to where this sighting was, because you can have military flares going off. There's several kind of flares. I did some research on this for one of the UFO sightings that I did investigate like a year or 2 ago. And that they have burn time. I'm kind of bummed that there is no video and he only has pictures. This is just, I mean, in today's day and age, everyone is so used to their camera. Why is he the only one on the beach taking pictures of these?
Right.
There should be other people. There should be other people that have sense enough to say, oh, I'm taking video of this and I'm going to post it on YouTube. But he only took 2 pictures, which is just weird.
Well, I'm not quite sure if he only took 2, but those are the only 2 that the news station played up.
Right. Oh, yeah. I'm looking at. I found the news station, but it's just, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
I mean, they did it. Sounds like they reached out to the FAA and the military, but the military doesn't seem like it got back to. They didn't get back to them.
Right. And I mean, if they might not. If it's military, they might not tell them. I'm not sure. I'm not sure with that. If it was a
Right.
practice run, if they were doing maneuvers or training at night,
Mm-hmm.
they might have let off some flares and just not said anything. But they're bright, and the trail, like I don't. What's the next picture? Let me see the next picture.
I don't think there's enough. Yeah,
No,
there
that
is.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that almost looks like it depends on which one was first, too. It looks like how they would launch and start floating down because they do take time to float down. And if they're releasing, and again, this perspective comes into play here because we don't know how far away this is. And we can't calculate how far away it is because we don't have enough data to do that. We don't know what they are.
Mm-hmm.
So this could be,
There
this
was
could be, you know,
no radar hit. We know that
right.
from, what is it? The Naples Airport Authority. So they went back. They confirmed there's no hits on radar.
All right. I mean, these could be a couple miles off, you
Mhm.
know, and if so, then being this bright, I would say more likely flares than lanterns.
Do you know when they shoot off flares for training exercises? Do you know what the typical number of flares is? Is a
No,
couple, a handful, a dozen, 2 dozen?
I've seen anywhere from 3 to like 20, 25, but all in between. The one case that I did for, I think it was South Carolina, I think it was 6. They had 6 that went off. And I don't know. I mean, it appears to be at least 4. Maybe one was a dud, or that fourth one that's in the front. I don't
You got
know.
the 3 burning pretty bright here,
Right.
if that's what they are. Then the one on the far left is a little lighter, and then it looks like it. If this is a second photo later in a time series, then one of them would have burned out there, which might make sense depending on how low level light intensity the one on the
Right.
left is there.
And that might be just shooting off. I mean, that this might be the first one. The other one might be
That's
the second
true.
one. And
That's
again,
true.
something people don't consider is that you can have a plane, and I'm going to use the mystery machine to demonstrate here, but you can have a plane going across and shooting out flares out the back as it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But you could also have 2 other scenarios where a plane's going down and they drop.
Yep.
And then you can also have the scenario where they drop a couple and then turn towards the camera or away from the camera. And now you won't see the flares as well because they're going to look like they're grouped together more, or one is going to hide the other one or camouflage the other one because it's behind it or in front of it. So there's a lot of situations. I really wish there was video to this. Otherwise it's just pictures of lights,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it.
Yep. All right, that's the end of that one.
2 little light stars. It might be lens flare. I don't know because we don't see what's on the side. And I'm sorry, but this jackass had his phone vertical. I can't stand that. You know, if you're taking pictures of landscapes, put your fucking phone in landscape mode. That's all I'm going to say. Oh, it irks me. I hate that. I hate the blurred things on the blurred bars on the sides.
Yeah.
Pisses me off. All right.
All right.
I'm gonna go next, and then we can close out. How about I'll go next because this is a quick one, and then we'll take a break and we'll come back and we'll discuss a little bit more of Tim's notes there.
All right.
About when we get taken over by aliens. All right.
We're
So
gonna offer up Tim.
the one I want to go over is, oh my god, all these fucking commercials are popping up. I'm on the wrong site. Let's see. Share, not that kind of site. That was last night. So this photo was taken in 2019. I think that's when it was. Oh, 2018. No, 2019. This is when it's formed. Okay, so this is an aircraft. It's a Hornet, F-18 Hornet that was flying around, and the co-pilot sitting in the back took a picture with his iPhone. And one of the biggest complaints I got was that, well, it was an iPhone. How can it be so clear? First of all, yeah, they're in a jet, they're in a fighter, they're going pretty fast. I think they're at like 35,000 feet. Speed is relative at that point. It's not like, everything's zipping by you. Things that are far off, you can see it and it comes up. It almost comes up kind of slow. And it's the same thing when you're driving on the highway and you're driving and you see that road sign, the exit sign coming up. It doesn't, boom, pass by you in a blink of an eye. It comes up kind of gradually. Same thing with this. They saw something. I don't know if it actually came up on the radar. I don't remember that small detail, but they saw this little thing right here. And they snapped a picture of it as they were flying by it. The close-up is this. And this came out right before the announcement for that 6-page disappointment that we got from the government. And this is actually billed as a leaked government image from 2018. Features a cube-like UFO. And I did an article on this because Popular Mechanics covered this and put this out. This is a science and tech article from Nerdlist. And the first thing is, it says cube-like UFO. That does not look like a cube to me. So that was the first thing that pissed me off.
Real quick, how high up did you say they were at? What altitude?
They are approximately 30,000 feet.
Okay.
So
that might be important. So keep going.
Yeah, it was. I covered it. So basically, what they're looking at, when I first saw this, I was like, oh, you know what? That really looks like something I'm aware of, or I've seen before. And it took me a couple minutes, and then I realized that my friend Mick West had already beat me to it. The fucker. But let's see. I did this. So that's what I think it is. A Batman balloon. And I actually have it somewhere around here. I think it's on the other side. The shape matches when you get the enhancement. When it's hard to see because it is pixelated, but it does look like you have the fists up here, and it's the same exact shape. And what I did was, I did look into balloons, Mylar balloons, and I actually got onto these high altitude pico balloons, which seems to be a really cool hobby. And they basically take small transmitters, but high powered transmitters, and they tie them to these balloons, these Mylar balloons, and they partially inflate the balloons. So you only have it about a quarter to a third full, but it's enough to float. And as it rises in the atmospheric pressure decreases on it. So it actually expands. So that's why you don't send up a full balloon, because it would pop. But these partially inflated ones will get up to, and these reach up to 40,000 feet. And larger balloons actually go to 100,000 feet. But you can track these all around the world. And it's really cool. You go to the website and you can see people's balloons have like circumvented the earth several times.
Cool.
And I'm like, shit.
I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty cool.
I mean, I was really amazed when I started reading this. Like, I can't believe people do this, and you can track where it goes and just where it is around the planet.
So where did you get the information on how high they can go? Because I looked at this at one point, and I have an FAA report or a study they did. Test of toy balloons performed for FAA, for the Federal Department of Aviation. And their conclusion was they get up latex. Well, this is latex. Mylar balloons do not go higher than 1,000 to 2,400 meters before they either explode or lose their lift.
This came from...
So if it's even at 2,400 meters, that's only 7,874 feet.
So this came from the Pico site, I guess the hobby club, the people that run this organization that send up these balloons like this. This is a smaller. This is the same size Mylar balloon as what the Batman balloon is.
Mm-hmm.
The smaller
But
party
is
balloons
that a
not reach
different
higher.
that's probably a different
Right.
quality though than
Right.
what you're going to see in the Batman Jewel Osco special for kids party.
So this says the smaller balloons like these usually get between 10,000 and 23,000 feet.
Interesting. That's in
According to the
conflict
original,
of the balloon study here.
which is a Popular Mechanics article based on this. The debrief article says the object appeared to be in an altitude of roughly 3,000 or 30,000 to 35,000 feet.
Mhm.
Oh, the problem is that this was there's no confirmation of this altitude, that it was a rough altitude. It wasn't documented. It wasn't something that we actually know. It was part of the story, so we don't actually know how high they were.
Okay.
And
got
I
out,
think I
Sherlock.
left it at that. Yeah.
It would have been okay. Interesting.
But we did, one of the things I did was get Donna. So I bought balloons. I bought 2 of these balloons, and just to get a comparison of a photographic comparison. I had my wife go out there with me, and we actually got a roll of line, of kite line, and had it go up as high as we could go.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's not to see if the balloon would pop or whatever. It was for appearance.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't get exactly it, but I was able to get the same shape, and show like this at a distance, and you can actually see the line. Well,
Right.
that's my line, and then that's the string that came with it, which was way too short. But
Mhm.
compared both side by side or up and down here, it's the same shape. So I'm pretty convinced that this is what it was. I don't know about all the details. Again, I can't confirm all the details about when they took the photo, because it was part of the story that featured in Popular Mechanics, and they didn't confirm any of the details. Everything was approximate, so they didn't know.
Right.
But I mean, I found this interesting. I thought it was really cool because, I mean, the shape just got me. I was like, wow, this really looks like what I think it is. But again, I mean, it's not 100%. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure this is it. But that's my opinion.
I would go guilty if I was on a jury.
I mean, the picture just did it for me. Especially, I mean, I wanted to do it quick because Donna was like, it's fucking cold out. I mean, there's snow on the ground. We're out in a field, an open field. And I mean, I got like, I think we had 200 yards of line. So it was way up in the sky. And I'm shooting it with my iPhone. So I was shooting it with my phone. This is a phone picture, not my good camera. Because I wanted to compare quality too.
Landscape mode, I assume.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my God,
shit.
people, turn your goddamn phone. All right. So that's my 2. Let's take a break.
Okay.
And then we'll get back and we'll talk some more. We'll see what you guys have left. All right.
Alrighty.
So
all right,
let's go on 3, 2, 1. All right, we are back.
Dude, it feels so good. Like after you like a whole pot of coffee, and I'm like sitting there. I forget how invigorated.
Invigorated.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Run into the restroom after a pot of coffee. I get back. I'm like, damn, I feel so much better.
Oh,
Tim's
Last
ready to
15
go
minutes,
2
I'm
more
like,
hours.
I gotta pee. Oh my god, I gotta go. To the
one
bathroom.
last thing on that last thing I wanted to comment on, because the entire article and story
Mhm.
about that UFO thing, all the details came from mysterious unnamed officials.
Oh, there you go.
So that's my biggest problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
Every person that allegedly provided information was unnamed.
But why
So-
would they say mysterious? Did they show up in like
I
a
might have
cloak?
added that. That might have been me. I'm not sure, but that might have been me. But they were unnamed officials, and that was in the report. So that's why none of the details we can take, to heart. There, we just have to, all right. Let's look at, and again, it comes back to one of my learning experiences is take everyone's descriptions or eyewitness accounts with a grain of salt.
Yep.
If we have a picture or video, let's focus on that first and then look at the details, told to us later. But let's look at what we see in the photo first. All right.
You think that fighter jet would have done an old turn and burn and try to catch up to it to see what it was if it was that interesting to him?
Or hit it. If I
Just
saw
shoot it, like just once.
If it's coming up, it's only about a meter long.
And-
Let's hit it.
Nothing says cool like launching $1 million missile at it.
Fuck yeah. Boom, baby.
Oh, I guess that
baby
was
got shit
something.
on us.
Shit.
Oh, damn. All
Oh
right.
shit! It just fired back. We're fucked.
Well, then you wouldn't have that fancy photo, would you, Tim?
All right. What do we got next? Who's got something? Dave, you got something?
I got one more I can go through if you want to put
Cool.
the slide back up.
All right.
Yeah, this one happened in Canada, July 30th, 2021, by the Gulf of St. Lawrence on the Atlantic side of Canada. Came across this story in livescience.com and Vice News. It was a report, 2 reports actually, one by a commercial airplane, which was a KLM Royal Dutch Airlines that was flying from Boston to Amsterdam. And then there was a military aircraft that was flying from Ontario to Germany. And both saw a bright green flashing object that flew into the cloud and disappeared. They filled out the incident report through Canada's reporting system. And you can actually go and read a little bit of the report. This is the first part of it. It just gives the day, the time, general information, the region it was in. And then you can go and read the description where the Gander Area Control Center reported that at 1:55 Zulu, the Government of Canada Department of National Defense flight, on and on and on about where it happened. The KLM Dutch Airlines Airbus A330-300 from Boston Logan to Amsterdam reported seeing a bright green flying object. It flew into a cloud and disappeared. No impact to operations. Then you can see the other occurrence below. They just provide more the summaries. They provide the summary of the report. So this one to me was interesting because it's 2 different aircraft. It's a commercial and a military that reported the same thing. But the conclusion on this one, and if you read through the actual story on Live Science or Vice News, the conclusion is a lot different. They're not hopping to the conclusion that it's a alien spacecraft. They basically come out and say, well, it could have been a meteor. It was at the beginning of the Perseid meteor showers. So they both, they come back and say, well, it could be something natural. So it's a lot different interpretation than what we see from people taking photos on the ground that really have no idea what they're talking about. So this one's interesting. It's they got the documentation, but again, nobody jumps to the conclusion that it's a little alien spaceship that flew in a cloud and disappeared. But it was reportable, and hopefully with the new government UFO tracking group that's going to be looking into these things, they will establish for commercial as well as military ways to report so they can get more data and actually take a deeper dive and see what's going on here. So
Right.
that was kind of a fun one. That's it.
Oh, cool. And that's good. It's good to see that they give possible. And I see here it says the KLM 618 thought it was space debris, which is
Right.
interesting. I mean, it's that's something I haven't heard before. You know, you're used to hearing like, oh, it's either a drone or a bird or another plane, or if we get way up there, it's Venus or Saturn or something like that. But to actually have a report about space debris, that's interesting.
But if I'm
Because
flying a commercial jet or a military aircraft and I see space debris coming down, that would scare me more than a freaking UFO, a real UFO.
yeah.
Like, Jesus, things are just dropping out of the sky right in front of us. That's not good. Yeah, and they even here they say the occurrence, event information, weather balloon, meteor, rocket, and they do list UFO. But again, it's not, as we said before, UFO does not stand for alien. It's just
Right.
unidentified flying object. So the
Right.
interpretation is a lot different in people that I would say are experienced and qualified to kind of see these things and make those calls. At least the commercial and military aircraft here, it's just kind of a matter of fact report. We saw something, we're not sure what it is. It could have been this, and that's really where they leave it.
Yeah, I like that. I like it. It's not something like here's suggestions, here's what it possibly could be, and there you go. That's all the information we have. We're not going to go beyond that.
Yep.
I like that. That's the way
This
it
is
should
good.
be.
This is good data. This is the type
Yeah.
of stuff that needs to be recorded and put out there for analysis.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Cool.
That's it.
Well,
All right.
I that was a good question I just Googled. So apparently per year, space debris falls into the Earth's atmosphere, 40,000 metric tons of interplanetary matter strike the Earth's atmosphere every year.
That's a lot.
That makes flying
Seems like
even
a
more
lot.
terrifying now.
Yeah.
Now you're
Now,
going
of
to
course,
they're aliens.
They're all, yeah, only 5 to 6 pieces of stone weighing at least 1 kilogram will hit. So they're probably calculate dust, which is some really good math. I'm not good at math.
Okay. All right. Tim,
Yes.
what else you got?
Oh, I just had some differing thoughts.
Let's get into some other shit now.
So what would they look like? I mean, that's just another one.
Hopefully the green alien lady on Star Trek.
Ooh, yeah.
2 belly buttons. Was that the one?
I don't care.
Well, we know Tim was looking at her belly buttons. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then, it was a good story.
Break.
around the time of the original Star Trek.
That's
what was
us,
her name?
you know? Dude, we could have a green alien come out in a bikini, like hot supermodel, and we all three of us would be like, dude, you got 2 belly buttons.
Mhm.
What's
What the
that
hell
about?
with the 2 belly buttons? That's just weird.
What's the genie? It was in the late 60s, maybe early 70s.
Adrena Genie?
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
She
welcome.
was not allowed to show her belly button on television. So one of the people that worked on that show was so upset with it that when they got to work with Star Trek, the original, they made an alien female with 2 belly buttons. That's why I was like, is that the one with 2 belly buttons?
That's some
Nice.
good trivia.
Nice.
That's interesting.
Star Trek. What can I say? Anyway, so my thought going towards like what would they look like is just thinking roughly of what's the most common element. So like immediately, like my thought is they could look like anything, which I guess they could. But if you had to structure it into a a ballpark, something to begin with. I thought about the most common elements that are floating around in the universe, which is basically, I don't know if these are in order, but it's hydrogen, helium, oxygen, neon, nitrogen, carbon, silicon, magnesium, iron, and sulfur. Coincidentally or not, there are 6 main elements that are fundamental to building blocks of life. They are, I did find in order from least to most common: sulfur, phosphorus, which is not in the original top 10. It's the only one out, but sulfur, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, and hydrogen. Of those, the carbon in both of them tend to be the most important of the bunch because it is a good building block. So going off on a limb here, you could almost say if the stuff that's here in our area of the universe is the same stuff that's in other areas of the universe, and there might be more, there might be less, I have no idea. It's just a thought. You could relatively maybe take a shot that you are going to build something that has life with the same building blocks as what we are familiar with. Doesn't mean it's true. It's just when you have something, that's all you got. So they might functionally be similar to us, maybe not in DNA or functioning or whatever, but at least in the general building blocks of life, they might be very similar. And I thought that was interesting take when I was reading about it, which led into, if they do visit, that means that they could bring viruses. And you know how we are with viruses. We'll just leave it at that. But yeah, so what would they look like? Basically, it would be, you would have to look at how long their species has had time for evolution. I think, again, I think Dave makes a great point. Just because I'm just kind of shooting out because it's popular, it's good for fiction and ideas that something's more advanced for us, but it doesn't actually have to be. But how long they had time for evolution, their time, their care, their education, the environment, and the physics of their environment as well. And I like that because it made me think of Superman. But the physics of what they are used to would be different and would play a huge part in how they would structure and how they would evolve over their time. Let alone, I'll leave it at that. But the second part of that, if you want to just jump into it, would be like we'd have to also deal with their beliefs. If they had a religion, their rituals, language would be immense.
I will teach them their first F word. This is the most popular word on the planet. You're coming here.
Fuck.
Fuck. The alien would be like, fuck.
Fuck. And rub.
It'd be interesting to get an astrobiologist on here to talk about those things, since there's actually people that do this for a living.
Where I did was I went to Google Scholar. Thanks a lot, Dave. I almost didn't make it back for the show. But yeah, that's where I got a lot of this. So I did try to go towards people. SETI had a lot of information. They're more than just looking up into the sky. They have a lot of really good discussion about this, about these exact topics. And they are much more educated and experienced on this than I am. So it was a really good read with their website and their discussions as well.
I think it would be, there's a lot of factors, and Bob brought up one that's on my list here. Gravitational, an episode of Morgan Freeman's Through the Wormhole, also points out that an alien's gravitational pull would determine how tall they are. And I think that also might determine strength and density of bodies, depending on how high or low your gravity is on their home world. I love that we get to use the word home world. That's awesome. I feel so nerdy.
And that's where the physics part of it falls into it. How they are going to structure and live through their environment.
And I mean, just evolution itself is a big factor because, I mean, we evolved after other species were wiped out. So what happens? What would happen if our planet never had that catastrophic event?
Mm-hmm.
How would evolution go? We would not be part of it. We wouldn't be here. It would be because there were totally different species here.
Mm-hmm.
And how would they? I mean, would it be like a Jurassic Park where the velociraptors, which were they took creative license with that, of course, but like just going along for the science fiction part of it, would that intelligent species be the one to evolve
Mm-hmm.
into something more advanced? Gravity has something to do with it, atmospheric pressure, and not just the atmosphere itself, what gases are in there, because we have an oxygen rich, I mean, nitrogen, yeah, is the dominant gas in the air, but oxygen is here, and that's why our species took off. That's why but what if it was flipped? What if something else was the dominant gas, and now you're going to have a species that evolves breathing in something else, either nitrogen or I don't know what else we have, ozone. What if they do breathe in ozone? You have a completely different lung structure, if lungs at all. What else? What if multiple species evolve?
Mm-hmm.
What if you had just, instead of humans, and we do have different brands or different flavors of humans, but what if humans developed on one side of the planet, evolved, while on the other side of the planet, independent, something else evolved?
There's a really good book that actually I read it not too long ago, and it's really interesting and fits into this conversation. It's called The Zoologist's Guide to the Galaxy,
Ooh.
and talks about basically evolution and how I think he makes the point that what happens here in studying plants and animals here can give you some kind of idea of what might happen in other worlds. He does mention things like gravity and atmosphere and how they might cause certain types of evolution. But he talks a little bit about, and I'm trying to remember something about evolutionary convergence, which he's saying that if you have unrelated lineages or certain organisms that are unrelated, they all seem to evolve and converge similar features or adaptations to the environment. So, if you found a certain planet that had similar, it looked like Earth, let's say environmentally it looked like Earth, he would assume that the environmental and evolutionary convergence would be similar. But if you do what you're talking about, Kenny, you get somewhere where there's a totally different, you're not a carbon based, let's say you're nitrogen based or you're silicon based or whatever. It might be a little bit different, but he feels that you can learn something by looking at how plants and animals on our planet evolved and make some predictions on what you might see in other worlds out in
Right.
space. So it's a pretty interesting book.
It's a cool concept, and I'm definitely going to order that tonight. But I mean, thinking about it, I hadn't thought about it that way. But I mean, even if you take different species
Mm-hmm.
and put them in the same environment, then I think evolution would bring them together. It would converge because you're dealing with the same environment. So any evolutionary traits that would benefit further procreation, further life, adaptation to the
Mm-hmm.
environment, you're adapting to the same environment, no matter
Right.
what lineage you have. So yeah, you would have to come together,
Mhm.
unless the only thing that I would bring up would be the different environments. And like this planet, we have a plethora of environments. We can go from the jungles of the Amazon all the way up to Antarctica,
Right.
or and vastly different climates.
Mhm.
And look at the Alaskans. Their diet, they're native born Alaskans, and I'm not 100% on this, but I think I've read that their diet is high in, I want to say blubber. It's a diet that normally we, like somebody like us, we couldn't eat because we couldn't digest what they do.
I see where you're going. Yeah.
And that would be a evolutionary trait that would be specific to your region. And that's interesting. I mean, and yeah, that goes along with like, what if there's different species? I mean, how many times have we seen sci-fi movies or even just TV shows where it's like, oh, this alien is from the planet Zorg, because that's the first one that popped in my head. But then two other completely different intelligent species are from the same planet. And it's like, all right, how did you do that? I mean, we have different colors. we come in different. You can buy us in white, brown, black, yellow, green, red, whatever, but
large spectrum.
Yeah, but a completely different I don't know, species. I mean, it's the same. Usually they all have, 2 arms, 2 legs, head, 2 eyes and stuff like that. But
yeah, even identical twins, though, even genetically identical twins, depending on how they're brought up in the environment, can be totally different.
Right.
So I have a question you gave me another good question to think about. So we talked about aliens coming here. What if we did foresee a catastrophe? Catastrophic. Shit.
Wait, like we drank too much?
What's that?
What if we foresaw a catastrophic event coming?
There it is.
Let's just say a certain population and a certain percentage of our population made it to a spacecraft, just for the sake of argument. However, they got to go somewhere else that was similar to the Earth. Now, we got to that Earth, or we got to that next planet, and it's a little different. Obviously, it would be a little different. What would we evolve into?
Right.
And let's say millions of years, the Earth didn't die or that didn't go wrong. But those people were like, hey, check it out. There's another planet that looks like ours. Let's go visit them again. And we were actually related. Sorry, that's for edibles later. Enjoy that one.
That would
well, considering some people feel like the aliens put us here, there's got to be more of us sprinkled throughout the galaxy, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's the concept. What if we are an offshoot, a spinoff, if you will, of a different race that came here and said, all right, you know what, we're going to start over. Our technology is gone. We left our dying planet. This was the last ship. Battlestar Galactica, the reboot, did that. At the end, when they arrived at Earth, they came down, but they sent the Battlestar into the sun to destroy it, and they started over here. I mean, it's an interesting concept. It's very conspiracy theory, but it's a concept. It's really, I mean, it is a concept because, like you said, Tim, what if that happens? What if that happens in the future?
What if you don't even have to send? What if you don't even send an organism? What if you send microorganisms or encapsulated DNA?
Yes.
I mean, we're getting to the point now where all you need is a little bit of DNA and a couple proteins you can pop in a test tube, and it's going to start transcripting and translating into protein.
Well,
just seed that into an alien planet and see what evolves out of life there. So you don't even need to send the organism. You can send the basic building blocks of life and let it take shape and see what happens.
But with that concept, it may have happened with different meteor strikes to the Earth millions of years ago, sending us out there. And also that would mean a meteor strike somewhere else with some type of life could have hit, and that rock landed here.
Right.
Oh, I love this shit.
It's an interesting thought process.
I think we should just send out spores, molds, and fungus. See what happens.
I think Egon's already handled that.
Okay.
It's interesting. I was just reading an article on environmental DNA, and they're actually collecting DNA just from the air and they're able to, of course, sequence it and identify what animals it's coming from.
Great.
So there's obviously DNA floating around everywhere. Getting into space and it surviving is a whole different story, but
Right.
it's really not that far-fetched to think that, that what we're talking about and things being introduced here, proteins, building blocks of life, nucleic acids, I mean, typically could end up other places very easily.
Yeah.
It's obviously everywhere.
I mean, yeah. I mean, all the science that we do, we see petri dishes filled with all kinds of stuff. If we send, what happens if we send a probe out to collide with the one planet? Oh my God, I forget the name. That's 4 some light years away. That's
had it.
habitable to
Yeah.
us, and we crash a probe into it. I love saying probe. With DNA samples, with fungus, with molds, with spores, with whatever. And I mean, we
Kill
might
the whole
disrupt.
fucking planet. And
Yeah,
then,
exactly.
That was an act of biological warfare, jackass.
Kill it. But can we seed it? Can we seed a
Potentially.
planet?
Or why would you send biological? Why wouldn't you send robots, artificial intelligence?
Yeah.
That might be what we're heading towards anyway.
Oh, dude, as soon as I get the opportunity, I'm transferring into a cyborg or just a fully automated. Yeah.
Facts.
Proxima Centauri. Thanks.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
That's where we're going.
So I have one final question.
Sure.
Just that was on my list. Other little stuff I've skipped.
These are fun. I like this.
So if alien life is here watching us and they have taken a form, what form do you think is the alien life here?
Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
I have my guess.
Taylor Swift looks like an alien to me. I mean, that's a good question, because let's say we found a way to get to another planet. Let's say our planet was destroyed. We had to find another planet. We wanted to inhabit that planet. Well, the first thing we're not going to do is just land and go, "Hey, how you doing?"
Right.
You're probably going to send drones down. You're going to survey like a military operation, and you're probably going to not want to be discovered until you have a pretty good feel for what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Prime
So
directive.
my thought is if there is something here, I'm not too sure they're going to make themselves all that well known at this point, especially because we're just such an upstanding race of
jackasses
of people. I mean, we're more concerned about wars and fighting and blowing up shit. And
well, there was a lot I read about not being ready. And that's just one person's idea, and that breaks off into another thing I won't get into, but how you view how aliens would be, or how they view us, has a lot to do with how your worldview is. But
and I'm not sure they would I'm not sure they would be a biological entity at this point. I mean, my thought would be what I just said, is they would send down some sort of surveillance or drones, or do it from a distance for quite a while.
Yeah.
I would almost argue I know what the animal is. It's the octopus. Those things are just so badass.
When they crawl out of the ocean and start attacking us, we'll know you're right.
Yeah.
If I was going to do this, if I was going to hatch this plan, like how to infiltrate, how to spy on an entire planet of people, I would make domesticated dogs and cats. Because they're in
we're already picking their shit up, so why not?
Yeah.
We'll take care of them.
We live to serve them. They live here. We leave them home alone. Who knows? You walk out the door, fuck them. They stand up and they're like, all right, let's see. Start going through your internet,
life of pets.
Looking at your browser.
Look at this pervert.
I like the idea of insects. I mean, that would be pretty. I mean, it was just something. I'm fascinated by octopi, if that's correct. But
I think so.
They are just amazing animals.
They are cool.
But going probably more accurately with something that would go that would go unseen that they could just record,
Mhm.
and it would be insects. I mean, they're just freaking everywhere. And insect drones. I mean,
Yeah.
you like other than like them getting on your nerves and you squishing them. I mean, entomologists study them, but
That's correct.
you would
That's good.
probably just throw in some drones, and if you're about to get in a petri dish, you just self-destruct, I guess. I don't know.
The ability of insects to find ways around us killing them is quite impressive. So that
Yeah.
you might be onto something there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. We good?
Getting deep. Woo.
Good.
Yeah.
This is good. We should just do that for one of the shows. Just throw out a topic like that and just have an open discussion, because this was
open mic with
good.
open mic with that as a topic. That's
we
a lot of
do
fun.
that.
There's some really good comments that have been
Yep.
going by too.
Yeah.
We should do that for the next show, because we haven't done that. We were supposed to do it like every fourth.
Yes, that
Yo.
would be good.
All right. Yeah. Why don't we? Who's next? Dave? Tim. Oh, lucky dog. All right.
Hey, I've got my
You got
claim
your
it. Bob beat me to it. He already knew.
Boom.
This show is getting kind of like the Starbucks pay it forward type thing, where you pay for the guy behind you. Kenny's like, I'm having trouble with topics, so we throw out a topic. He's like, okay, let's do that one. Tim, he's sitting here going, yeah, I'll do that topic next week. Open mic night, and then I think I stole Kenny's topic on my last time I hosted. So we just kick the can down the road, let somebody else pick it.
Who's after me?
Me.
Yeah.
I am serious about thinking, did everybody freeze or just me? Okay.
Just you.
Kenny looks like he's frozen. There he is. Okay. It was me. I am serious. I do want to explore a year-long data collection at a place.
Oh,
I don't know how expensive or the barriers to that, but that is something I do want to explore. And I think you two would be excellent in helping me understand if that is an obtainable goal. If the small things I could do would be actually worth doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I probably can't afford so much equipment to do it like pristinely great. But if I do get a couple things and I do collect data for a year, is what I do worth, like, will I collect so little relative to the topic? It really won't make a dent. So it's just ideas.
It's way better than what people are doing now with investigations. I'm telling you, that time Jen and I lived in that house in Janesville, and we didn't run stuff all the time. I mean, we didn't data log or video record all the time, but when we lived in that house and we could collect and do whatever we wanted for that year and a half, that was so much more insightful and interesting than going to a place for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I openly say, like, I don't know what I'm doing when I want to plan for a year long.
It's a lot.
We should. Yeah, we'll set up a date this week, and we can jump on and talk about it and plan out some stuff.
I think it's a great idea.
Brainstorm. Yeah. All right, closing statement.
Well, that's yours, Dave. You got the awesome one too. Kenny,
closing statements. Dave, you go first.
Interesting topic. I love talking about this stuff. I love the tangents we go off on. And I think some of the examples we showed tonight show a couple things. One, how people can jump to conclusions, how you can interpret things, how you can put something out there, like in Kenny's example of the UFO and crashed into the snow. And, when you plant a certain thought in somebody's head, that's what people run with. And then you got to get outside of that and kind of think outside the box to analyze it. People jump to conclusions. We saw that in some of the examples I talked about, but the ones I think are really interesting, and I obviously like data and I like clean data, and the one with the report in Canada, to me, that's perfect. It'd be nice to delve into that, get some more details, but that's the type of information that needs to be collected and then have people analyze without any preconceived notions, without any interpretation in there. Just here's simply the facts. Here's what happened. Are there things out there we can't identify in the sky? Absolutely. Are they alien? Most of them probably aren't. most things you could probably explain. Are there things we can't explain yet? Sure. There's a percentage that people can't explain, but that doesn't mean you jump to the conclusion that it's an alien aircraft. Who knows? Or there's there's a biological entity in that craft that's piloting it. So, it's a fun topic. I'm not sure anybody's ever going to solve it anytime soon in the future, even with a couple $1 million of government funding. But we'll see. Hopefully, there's something out there. I do believe, based on the vastness of the universe, I find it incredibly hard to believe that we're the only life out there. Even if it's other microbiological life or full thinking conscious beings, there's got to be something else out there. And just because we can't travel those distances doesn't mean somebody else could not have figured it out at this point. But there's a lot of distance. There's a lot of galaxy, stars, and planets. So, who knows if there's anything out there visiting Earth. We just haven't seen any conclusive evidence of it at this point. So I'll leave it at that.
Nice. Tim, what do you got?
Well, since we started talking about aliens and what they would turn into to report on us, and you said dogs and cats, very strangely, my cat just jumped into my lap, and I'm pretty
Distraction.
Your cat's going to slit your throat tonight. He's on to me.
I don't think
Distraction technique. Distraction.
I don't think she's like staring at me like, bitch, quit talking about that shit. I'm going to kill you.
We're going to kill you.
Right.
Bickered.
I totally agree exactly with Dave, especially just that so much. It's so huge. I can't say that there's life either less advanced or more advanced than us somewhere else, but the probability of it just seems overwhelming. At least my personality and the way my brain goes when I start thinking about UFOs, I really get fascinated by how we're going to react to it. I just really do. It's much more intriguing to me. Even like not just the moment, like the first year of how we deal with it. It's how we're going to deal with it years after. And what if this planet is a planet that they want to inhabit because their planet was gone? Like what's our culture going to be like? How are we going to integrate? What's it going to be like? Those long-term questions like that are just fascinating to me. Human behavior is just pretty cool. Nice. That's about all I have. Now my cat's looks like she's loading like a rifle of some sort. It's like a laser gun. I'm not sure. It's been nice knowing you guys.
You're gonna be vaporized in 5 minutes.
I'm gonna get vickered.
So yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys. This was a good discussion. I liked everything that we talked about and touched on different subtopics that go with this. I guess the one lesson that I would emphasize here is if you don't know what something is, then you don't know. Don't make up a conclusion. There are so many. I mean, when you do UFO sightings, if you Google that, there are so many pictures and videos that come up, so many news reports, and it's simply lights in the sky or an object in the sky, like a daytime sighting where there are no lights. It's just a dark object or maybe a shiny object. But that's all it is to you. That's it. Mm-hmm. It's not an alien spacecraft. It's not an interdimensional spacecraft. It's not any of this because we don't know what it is. If you go in closer, you can usually assume some of the things the one picture, Dave, that you showed. And I kind of think it's flares, but I'm not sure. I mean, it looks similar to what I've seen with flares, but I don't know for sure. I can't say 100%. Right. And I leave it at that because I don't have enough information. Mm-hmm. And I think that's our culture now. That's our society where people whip out their phones, they see something weird and they start speculating, and everyone just jumps in with their own thing. Like, oh, yo, I saw this. It's definitely that. It's aliens. It's coming to get us, and tell you what, man, stop watching fucking Ancient Aliens. Stop watching that show. That's a horrible show. Stop it. Just stop it. That fucker. I would like to meet him. I would totally get a selfie with him. But just think about things. Think about it. How much stuff do we see in the sky every day? And we don't give it a second look. We don't give it a second thought. We see planes in a distance. It flies in a straight line. We can't tell what kind of plane it is. We can't even tell it's a plane. But it flies in a straight line. So it's like, oh, well, we don't think about it. And that's the same mentality. Just because you see a bunch of lights in the sky, yeah, you know what? Independence Day might happen one day. It might. But I doubt it. And I think you're going to have a lot of warning beforehand. Though I don't know. We can talk about Don't Look Up later. I don't know if you guys watched that.
Yeah, freaking awesome.
I love that.
It was hilarious.
But yeah, the lesson is just don't speculate and present it as fact. And that's pretty much a general lesson we teach on this show with ghost hunting and Bigfoot hunting and whatever. Don't bring your beliefs and your speculation as fact, and try to influence others into believing aliens are already here and they built the pyramids. No, they didn't. We did it. We're pretty good at building shit. We can do that. We don't need aliens to come and help us. I'm going off on tangents here. All right, you guys got anything coming up, Dave?
Next Saturday, I hear there's a show called 3 Tortured Souls. I'll be on that.
Yeah.
Tim.
I do a show every Saturday night with two of my friends. Pretty cool show. It's called 3 Tortured Souls. It's pretty good.
All right. Well, I too do a show Saturday nights called 3 Tortured Souls every Saturday night. I also do a show on Friday nights, which most of the people in the chat room do attend, called the Skeptical Help Bar. So it starts at the same time, 8 p.m. If you want to come out, we do exactly the same thing, except these guys don't join me. I'm by myself. Or actually, Donna is off to the side, so I'm not by myself.
When I'm not working, I come in the chat room and try to crack you up or give you some shit.
I know.
Yeah, we pop in once in a while to give you hell.
It's not. Yeah. Oh, you give me more hell than anyone else, Dave.
I've been good lately. I need to step my game up there.
Yeah, you need to step that up. It's been too easy lately. I need someone that just totally fuck up my game.
All right, I'll be happy to oblige.
I'm sure.
Good job, Kenny. You're fucking dead.
Yeah. It's all right. That's why I drink. All right. So with that, I guess everyone have a great weekend. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the rest of it. Keep drinking. And we'll see you next week when we're gonna have an open mic night next week, I think.
Which one was it? Yes, open mic night.
Yeah, you're up, Tim. You were going to do open mic night.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to do open mic night. Open mic night.
I'm not the only one.
I'm down this
I was
show.
just first.
All right,
next
guys.
week. And all right. So we'll fuck it. We'll see
Yes.
See you next fucking week.
Bye.
Tortured souls.